Chapter 2 Hope of the Whole Village. The cold winter in Lingkong village didn't know when it became so cold. A little breeze was like countless sharp frost swords under the blessing of this icy temperature. In the early morning of the snowy morning, the warm sun slowly rose on the horizon, and the night in the sky began to fade under the erosion of the faint light. At this time, most of the villagers in Lingkong village should still be greedily enjoying the warmth in their beds. But this morning was very strange. Most of the villagers in Lingkong village gathered at the entrance of the village, and everyone looked in the direction of the village chief Shinchen's house, as if expecting something to appear. After a long time, the heavy snow had left a thick layer on the villagers, but they did not intend to knock off the snow on their bodies, nor did they choose to leave because of the biting cold wind and return to the warm bed. After a while, a familiar figure appeared in everyone's field of vision. "Come here!" a villager shouted excitedly. This sound was like a stimulant, which made everyone mention the spirit that was cut down by the cold wind. Shinchiubai was playing hatch and dressed very well. Slowly walked from home to the entrance of the village. When he walked to the entrance of the village, he found that everyone in the village gathered at the entrance of the village, and everyone looked at Shinchiubai with anticipation. "Aunt Wang, who are you?" Shinchiubai came over suspiciously and saw Aunt Wang, who was carrying firewood yesterday. "Child, you are really good. We used to be reluctant for you to cultivate, but now everyone in our village hopes that you can realize your dream. Become a powerful warrior." Aunt Wang walked forward, holding her hands tightly. Shinchiubai's right hand, the old face showed a hopeful smile. Thanks. Shinchiubai smiled awkwardly, although he wondered why the villagers suddenly changed their minds and agreed with him to continue practicing. But he was also very happy, because finally his grandfather was no longer the only one to support him. "Children, although we are all mediocre people, you are our only hope. Therefore, all of us in the village hope that you can achieve something, even if it's just." Another neighbor he was very familiar with said, but he stopped abruptly halfway through. As if something was taboo about what he was going to say later. "Uncle Li, I promise that I will definitely be a powerful warrior in the future. I have confidence in myself." Shinchiubai patted his chest and assured. "Brother Chiubai is the best. Come on." A child sprang from behind Aunt Wang and said with a smile. The child stretches out his right hand with a wooden badge on the palm. And what was engraved on the badge was Shinchiubai's handsome face. Shinchiubai bent down and looked at the rough carved badge, pointed to the badge, then pointed to himself, and said, "Xiaodong, is this for my brother?" "Yeah." Xiaodong showed an innocent smile and nodded heavily. "Then brother will accept it." Shinchiubai put on a gentle smile and stroked Xiaodong's head with his right hand. "Put away the badge. That big brother wants to promise me one thing," Xiaodong said, showing her white teeth as white as xia. Shinchiubai smiled and asked, "Okay, what are you talking about?" "It's very simple, brother, don't forget what you said, you must become a strong man and avenge us in the future." After Xiaodong finished speaking, tears began to flash in his eyes. Stubbornly stretched out his right pinky finger. Under this strong cold wind, the tears seemed to be integrated with everything around them, and they seemed very crystal clear. Shinchiubai didn't even see them for a while. Vengeance? Shinchiubai was stunned for a moment, but then thought about it. He also stretched out his little finger to hook Xiaodong's little finger, and put his forehead on Xiaodong's forehead. He smiled brightly, "Okay. When I come back, I will definitely help you to avenge, throw snowballs with you and cry with you, the big brother who often bullies you, okay?" Xiaodong retracted her pinky finger, wiped her snot that had been frozen, and nodded resolutely. "It's getting late, it's late, the teacher should scold me." Shinchiubai stood up and looked up at the already bright sky. He bowed his head and comforted, "Brother is going to become a strong man. Will you come back later to play with Xiaodong later?" "Brother, let's go." Xiaodong nodded knowingly and walked aside to make way for Shinchiubai. "Cultivation, well, it's okay to come back later." Aunt Wang said softly, her tone full of reluctance. Okay. Shin Xiaobai nodded. Although he didn't understand why these neighbors came to see each other at the entrance of the village, he still felt very warm. Shin Xiaobai slowly walked out of the village entrance under the hopeful eyes of the villagers and walked towards the Tianlang Mountains. At the place where he could not see the villagers, Shin Xiaobai suddenly stopped and turned to look back at Xiaodong and the others. Seeing Shin Xiaobai looking back at him, Xiaodong waved goodbye to him vigorously. The other villagers waved their hands like him. Shin Xiaobai smiled slightly, turned around and continued walking. Seeing that Shin Xiaobai was about to disappear from his sight, Xiaodong suddenly ran a few steps forward and shouted with all his strength, "Brother Xiaobai, come on." Although the distance became farther, Shin Xiaobai still heard it, but he did not look back, did not stop moving forward. Just waved his hand in response to Xiaodong. People can turn back, but don't stop moving forward. Seeing that Shin Xiaobai had completely disappeared from his sight, Xiaodong finally couldn't help crying. Seeing this, Aunt Wang hurried forward, hugged Xiaodong tightly, and comforted, "Don't cry, Xiaodong, your brother Xiaobai will definitely become a strong man." "Aunt Wang, why are we going to die even though we didn't offend anyone?" Xiaodong hugged Aunt Wang tightly and looked up at Aunt Wang's old face. "Because we're not strong enough." Aunt Wang looked at the direction Shin Xiaobai was leaving. Although his face is old, his eyes are still full of hope. But I don't know if this hope refers to himself or Shin Xiaobai. At the foot of the Heavenly Wolf Mountains, Shin Xiaobai was lying on the snow, gasping for breath. He murmured to himself, "Sure enough, my body is still not good. It's only a few miles away. If other warriors run over, I'm afraid I won't catch a breath, but I really can't." Shin Xiaobai's forehead was full of beads of sweat, and the clothes that were close to the body's skin were already soaked with sweat. With a gust of cold wind blowing, the sweat beads turned into ice droplets, and a thin layer of frost was instantly covered on the face. Shin Xiaobai rubbed his already red hands a little, sorted out some snowflakes on his clothes, coughed a few times, and set off towards the depths of the mountain range. There are many monsters in the Heavenly Wolf Mountain range. In a place a few miles away from the foot of the Tianlang Mountains, a middle-aged man stood in front of several monster beasts with strong breath and hideous faces. The monsters opened their bloody mouths, revealing sharp fangs. The powerful spiritual power fluctuations in the body caused a dramatic change in the surrounding aura, setting off a powerful storm, and the snowflakes falling on the ground and in the air were all wiped out by this powerful spiritual aura. But the middle-aged man didn't seem to be affected by this powerful aura in the slightest. He still just stood there quietly, with his hands on his back, without any fear of facing the powerful monster at all. It seems that he doesn't care about these monsters at all. Seeing that the middle-aged man did not react, the monsters roared as if they had been humiliated, and rushed towards the middle-aged man, trying to tear him to pieces. The middle-aged man snorted coldly, his spiritual sense moved slightly, and a breathless fluctuation suddenly appeared. A black hole appeared in front of the monster out of thin air, and the powerful phagocytic power came instantly, swallowing them all in the fearful eyes of the monster. Only a few Niden remained suspended in front of the middle-aged man. This scene was witnessed by Shin Xiaobai, who happened to feel it. His boss opened his mouth. He was stunned for a long time without reacting, so that there was a layer of frost in his mouth and he didn't feel it. For Shin Xiaobai, who had just exhausted all his strength to kill a first-order monster, this scene was simply a dream. He never thought that killing a monster would be so easy. Destroy several fourth-order demon kings. This middle-aged man was the stranger who appeared in Lingkong village half a year ago, that is, Li Yi, Shin Xiaobai's teacher now. Li Yi's identity and origin are like his black robe, full of mystery. Shin Xiaobai still doesn't know how strong his teacher is. Whenever Shin Xiaobai thinks that Li Yi's strength has reached the limit, he can always easily kill a few monsters with superior strength to show Shin Xiaobai. As for other aspects, Shin Xiaobai didn't know anything except his name. For this teacher, he is full of awe and respect. Li Yi seemed to sense Shinxiubai's arrival, slowly turned to look at him, and said coldly, "It's a bit late today." When Shinxiubai heard this, he felt bad. He quickly ran to Li Yi and explained, "I overslept today, so I woke up a little late." Li Yi, who seemed to forgive Shinxiubai, didn't criticize him. He waved a few inner pills floating in front of him into his palm. Immediately, a flame appeared out of thin air from Li Yi's palm. I saw that the inner alchemy quickly melted into a spherical liquid. Li Yi flipped his left hand, and several precious medicinal herbs appeared in front of Li Yi, which quickly merged into the flames and merged with the monster's inner elixir. The inner alchemy of these fourth-order monsters, together with the precious medicinal materials such as bright magic grass and God's horn wood, is enough to refine the sixth-order Taoist body pill. Li Yi's surface was still colorless. "Teacher, what is the Great Tao Divine Body Pill? What's the use?" Shinxiubai asked. The Tao Divine Body Pill, as the name suggests, is to use the drug Tao to change the bad parts of the body, and the body after the change is comparable to the divine body. Li Yi explained. "What? Is this true?" Shinxiubai was shocked. "Comparable to a divine body? Is this really possible?" God is the supreme being in Shinxiubai's heart. He thinks that whether he can see a real God in his life will be a big question mark. Now Li Yi said that the Tao Divine Body Pill could make his body comparable to the divine body. How could it not surprise him? Of course it's true, but the raw materials needed for this medicinal pill are so precious that it is almost impossible to find the materials to refine the highest grade Tao Divine Body Pill. So the phrase comparable to the divine body is very important in today's era. It's like a legend. Li Yi said. "Scared me. I thought that the Tao Divine Physique pill you are refining now, teacher, can make my body comparable to the divine physique." Shinxiubai said. "I can really think, your teacher, I don't have the Tao Divine Body Pill that refines the highest grade Taoist body." Li Yi gave Shinxiubai a look. This disciple of his is just too shallow and doesn't know anything. He has no concept of anything. Even if there is a divine object in front of him, I am afraid he will not pay attention to it, because he has no idea what a divine object means, and what kind of power it has. After a while, Li Yi refined the Tao Divine Body Pill, handed it to Shinxiubai, walked behind Shinxiubai, pressed his right hand on his back, and said, "Swallow it, then sit down with peace of mind, and run the spiritual power in your body. Leave the rest to me." "Yes, teacher." Shinxiubai immediately sat cross-legged and swallowed the medicinal pill without hesitation. He wanted to become stronger so much that he didn't even think about what kind of pain this elixir would bring him. The medicinal pill entered the abdomen, and the medicinal power instantly swept through the whole body. After a warm current passed, Shinxiubai's body began to gradually heat up, and the surrounding deep snow was continuously melted by the heat emitted by Shinxiubai, turning into a pool of water, which soaked Shinxiubai's clothes. But within a few seconds, a stream of steam wafted out of Shinxiubai's clothes, and the soaked clothes were actually dried by the heat radiated from Shinxiubai's body. "It's so hot, it hurts." Shinxiubai gritted his teeth and said, a faint red light emitting from his body. Shinxiubai's clothes have been baked to dryness, and they will be shattered into pieces if they droop casually. "You'll hurt even more. Hold back." Li Yi pressed down on Shinxiubai's back, and a dark blue airflow swept across his body from his palm. Shinxiubai's body felt much better as the blue air spread throughout his body. "Ah!" Shinxiubai suddenly screamed loudly. His hands plunged straight into the ground, drawing 10 long deep grooves.